This is Dead Serious, a show about short horror stories worthy of discussion. I'm Dead Pallet, and double stuffed Oreos are the default Oreo. Today we're taking a look at SCP-188. Man, I just love going through these stories. I've been enjoying this quite a bit, and I found one that piqued my interest, and just lovingly prodded it. Piqued my interest. Because of an image I saw related to it. So we're going to get right into it. Item number SCP-188, Object Class, Safe, Special Containment Procedures. As SCP-188 poses no direct threat to any Foundation assets, SCP-188 is to be contained in a storage unit J6-455. Its presence is to be noted during the biweekly survey of site assets. During this time, any environmental effects exerted by SCP-188 are to be reversed. Okay, so we have an image of a moth to the side of this. This moth is constructed entirely out of this weird fibrous material. Very bizarre. And it says, an example of the effect of SCP-188. Alright. Description. SCP-188 is a volume of iridium metal hosting an effect that acts on a finite region around the object. With the exception of the regional effect, SCP-188 is, chemically and physically, an otherwise unremarkable sample of iridium metal. SCP-188 has a mass of 181.43 grams. Man, I got the metric system right, because I think G just stands for grams. 181.43 milligrams, meter grams, and has been cast as a cylinder with a radius of 1 meter and a length of 2.56 centimeters or millicentimeters. SCP-188's 1-88 current cylindrical shape is not its original form, but one convenient for experimental manipulation and storage. So they've messed with it. Okay. But we still haven't gotten to what effect it has on items around it, objects around it. The regional effect of SCP-188 induces changes in the environment. The change takes the form of discrete manipulations, such as scratches on surfaces or grouping or shaping of ambient materials such as dust. Okay. These changes emerge over time and are widespread over the entire region of effect. The changes show a high degree of complexity and structure and have been seen to change with time. Further, the effects extend to all scales and has included exceptionally small and intricate structures. That plays into the image at the bottom of the screen, and I'll describe that in a second and where it comes from. Initially contained by the Foundation, SCP-188 consistently induces fractal motifs. Since containment, this has increasingly shifted to include spiral and flow motifs. Biological forms have emerged, but are rare, as a rare but consistent theme. Okay, so what I'm getting is that it's normally spirals and flow motifs, but sometimes you do get things like this moth shape that we have here that seems to be made out of dust. Okay. By this point, someone might ask, what constitutes a horror story? And I've always had a very liberal definition of what a horror story is and what realism is in a story. This is grounded in the SCP thing, and take that with the creative license that you will on whether that's realistic or not. I think it's down to earth enough. I think it's completely plausible that there's this weird conspiracy out there to contain these objects, and that's why we don't know about them, and they have amnesiacs, whatever. We have no reason to believe it, but besides the fact that extraordinary claims require extraordinary evidence, but it's hard to disprove a lot of the things that I've read on the SCP Foundation website. As for horror, this is kind of like a slice of life horror. It's like everyday, weird, anomalous objects that are unsettling and slightly disconcerting because they stick out, because they are anomalies. Even the safe ones, I think, give grounding to the bigger horror stories and the bigger things that we need to be worried about in the SCP universe. So that's why I'm reading this story and why I think that it falls under the purview of horror stories. Anyway, as the environment around it is manipulated, SCP-188's regional effect will extend outward. Testing has shown that the region will only extend outward to a volume encompassing an area of about 4,000 meters cubed. Attempts to nullify SCP-188's effects have included placement of a Faraday cage, placement in an irradiated containment device, powdering, and melding SCP-188. Googling Faraday cage. A Faraday cage or a Faraday shield is an enclosed form by conductive material or by a mesh of such material used to block electrical fields. Faraday cages are named after the English scientist Michael Faraday, who invented them in 1836. Now I know what that is, and we're all a little bit more scientifically literate the more you know. So apparently that is ineffectual on this object. None of these attempts have diminished the regional effect in any way. Current proposals to vaporize SCP-188 are recondensed small portions of the vapor are being explored. Why would the SCP Foundation want to destroy this thing? All it is it's just making art. Maybe there's some grander problem that it could cause, but all it is just making pretty pictures, pretty little site-specific sculptures. I would want to have this object. This thing's awesome. SCP-188 first came to our attention as a predecessor body of the Foundation on redacted 1920 redacted, located at the rural Indiana property of redacted. After a thorough search, the object was found as a spike partially submerged in the ground and appeared to be in the process of reshaping the local wheat crop through braiding together and flattening stalks. So maybe this thing has the ability to make crop circles. No clear pattern had emerged at the time of acquisition, though the effect had begun to extend over many meters. It's weird that they say meters here instead of... No, I guess that makes more sense than annotating it. Though records are incomplete, it is known that effects to contain the effect of the object failed. Embedding in bulk material, such as concrete or lead, did not diminish the initial size of the region the effect acted on. Further, these attempts ended with the object carving apart the containment sheath. The Foundation has evidence that more esoteric proposals were suggested, such as encasement in diamond. No evidence exists that these technologically sophisticated and resourceful extensive proposals were followed up on. So presumably, this thing is really, really hard to contain, begging the question why it's even worth containing, because if you put this thing in a room, it would have to be 4,000 meters wide, and it would probably still mess with the floor. Like, there's no way to effectively suspend this thing in midair. It will start making these weird art objects no matter what. When the parent organization was folded into the Foundation, the object and any existing records were inherited, where the fuck did I get that? Inherited and placed under the SCP-188 classification. When the crop circle fad emerged, efforts were taken to determine if there was any connection between the crop circle makers and the effects caused by SCP-188. Investigations show no connection beyond the superficial, which is the opinion of the O5s that the that similarly is a coincidence. Okay. That the similarity is a coincidence. Jesus Christ, Brandon. Fucking Christ. So here's a little bit of backstory that I don't know about the SCP Foundation. What is this parent organization that was folded into the SCP Foundation? That sounds like that's a bit of lore that I might want to look into because that sounds interesting. Anyway, proposal to explore or illustrate any statistical consistencies in the effect of SCP-188 has upon its environment are being accepted and evaluated. At this time, due to the lack of inherent danger posed by SCP-188 and its current containment, proposals require extreme measure or contact with other SCPs or contact with SCPs are not encouraged. Okay, so down at the bottom we have recovered documents related to the test of SCP-188 circa 1975. And it depicts a bunch of natural, I don't know if it's sticks or wheat or what material it is, but it's seaside, and they have been shaped into a giant circle that is standing upright against the seascape or whatever body of water this is. And immediately upon seeing this object, I did a reverse Google image search to make sure I was correct about who it is. But this is an image made by, or a found object, not a found object, a site-specific object constructed by the artist, Andy Goldsworthy. Andy Goldsworthy is a really interesting artist who uses natural objects to build these wild, bizarre sculptures. If you Google his work, Andy Goldsworthy, you'll see all kinds of images using leaves and rocks to make these really cool natural sculptures, and he has a really nice playful use of color. He makes these things that if you just walked upon them in real life, you would be startled and ask who spent their time making these things. And I've always wanted to come across one of his works in real life, because I think it would have more impact than the photography that he does of these things. And a lot of them are very fragile and would break very easy, but still, definitely give his work a look. So I like the idea that SCP-188 is just Andy Goldsworthy as this weird piece of iridium metal. But that's enough of this for today. We gotta move on to our sponsor, which is Jenga. Jenga. Well, that was a fun 2 minutes, but this party fucking sucks.